Wingardium Leviosa! So I decided to do a little bit of an experiment in class, and I decided to bring my knitting equipment with me and see if I was able to pay attention in class while knitting on Friday. And what I found was that it is a little bit hard to concentrate when you have a pattern that you're working on. I was paying attention to making sure that I wasn't going to do more of the pattern, and I didn't want to accidentally do more than I was supposed to. So I found that that was a little bit hard to do, but when I was just doing the so I did the 7 knit and then the 65 purl. So when I was on the 65 purl part of the pattern, I found that it was easier to concentrate on what we were talking about in class, because that was just kind of repetition. It didn't require me to actually focus on what I was doing. Apart from that, I found that it actually helped me focus a little bit more during that time, because it helped me think about what was being said more. Like, I was visualizing what was being said. I do find that it would be difficult in a class where we needed to take notes, so for that reason I wouldn't suggest it in a class such as math or I guess a history class, etc. But if, for example, we were reading a book in class and we were reading it out loud, I think that knitting would be a good way to help students who are a little bit more fidgety to focus on what's being read, and so that way they're able to sit still during this time and really take in what's being discussed. Apart from that, I did also learn recently that you can tell where you left off in the pattern. I'm going to switch the camera angle. So previously I was taking notes on my phone to remember which part of the pattern I left off on, because you do need to alternate back and forth, and then I realized after that every time you bring the entire row of what you're knitting to the left side, you can actually see where you left off. So when I'm looking here, I have 5 knit, 65 purl, and then 5 knit at the end again. And then when you switch it back over the next time, it'll be facing this way. So then you'll see that you have 5 purl, 65 knit, and then 5 purl. So that realization has saved me a lot of trouble, because before I was hoping for the best when I started the row if I forgot to keep note on my phone, and sometimes that meant that I would have to kind of backtrack and put the stitches back onto my needle and start all over again. And so this realization is definitely helpful, and I'm excited that I will be able to pass it on to my students as well. I definitely wouldn't suggest doing a pattern in general for students who are just starting off. I think it was a little bit ambitious for me to A, make an entire blanket, B, do a pattern, and C, make a blanket as big as I am. It is a little bit hard to do because it is getting so bunched up at this point. Keeping it all on one needle is getting quite difficult. It's also starting to come off the ends, so as you can see here, I had to put a little elastic band there. Even then, I find that it's better to put something bigger, such as a hair scrunchie. On this one I have an actual elastic band, just because the knits sometimes get too big on the ends and then they start to come off, and when they come off you forget to tie them back in, and you start having problems such as what you can kind of see happening here. This might have been one that fell off, but it's kind of hard for me to tell at this point. It's supposed to have kind of a braided pattern going on there. Here you can see one that isn't braided properly, so I might have accidentally lost this one here too. Again, I'm still very new to this, so I don't actually know what happened there, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm really hoping that I finish the blanket on time. I really was not expecting it to take as long as it is. So far, this part of the blanket has taken me one entire roll of yarn I'm on the second one right now. I had to tie it in, where is it? I might not be able to see it right now where I tied it, but I had to tie it in at one point, and time-wise, this has taken me over a month now to do, and I've been working on it quite often, so it is very time-consuming, which I wasn't really expecting. I thought it would go a lot quicker than it actually is, but I guess it's a learning curve. I've noticed doing the knit part of it is actually a lot faster for me to do than the purl side, and I'm not sure if that's just because the movement feels more natural or if it's because I've just had more experience working with the knits, which doesn't entirely make sense because it's kind of half and half. But anyway, that's where I'm at right now. I'm really hoping that I'll be able to get it done in time. And I actually just found right here is where I connected the two balls. So in order to do that, you actually just take the end of the string from one ball of yarn, and you tie it to the beginning of the next ball of yarn, and you just keep going, and eventually you can either fold these into it, or you can trim them down, or just leave it as it is if you really want to. Yeah, so I'll keep you updated as I go. It is a really good activity to do to pass time. I've been sick with a cold, which you can probably tell. My face is probably really red, and so I find that it is very relaxing to do when you feel like your brain can't handle a lot going on. And it keeps you at least doing something. And yeah, so I'll keep you updated.